try to resist your inevitable fate. You will be erased.
Greetings. I'm Force Nature, and I welcome you to Top Tier Tips. In this session, we're going to be taking a look at the mysterious Evil operative, Groh.
Your fate is decided.
Groh is a good beginner character for players that like good, close-range, mix-up pressure. Your general objective with Groh is to basically get in on your opponent, usually with a move like 6-6A or 6-6B, and then basically being able to enter into Groh's special stance called Avenger stance and trying to enter into that safely. Your go-to move usually for entering into this Avenger stance will be 4A right here. So 4A, 6, or back A, forward. Alright, this one, if this move ends up getting guarded, then it will leave you at +6 if you enter into the Avenger mode. In general, the Avenger mode is, the Avenger stance is any time when Groh ends up splitting his lance into two swords. So naturally, Avenger stance is going to be your main pressure tool. I'll go over Avenger stance in a bit more detail later, but I'll just give you a heads up right now that it's basically a 50-50 between a low and a mid. And yes, that's a hit throw. Groh is also quite adept at avoiding vertical attacks, since he has a lot of moves that have a built-in sidestep evasive properties, such as 6-6A, 6-6B, 4A, or 4B. And another move, 2-3-6B, also looks evasive, though that might just be simply the nature of the input. And it's also a pretty sick move in its own right. Before I go on, I would like to thank Smart Esports and Trollcoin for endorsing this video. And as always, if you like this video, smash that like button. If you didn't like this video, just hit the like button anyway, and don't forget to subscribe for more juicy fighting game content. And also, I'd like to take this moment to thank my premium top tier fighters for their continued support, which I do appreciate. If you'd like to become a premium top tier fighter yourself, click on the Patreon link down below. And also, if you have any difficulty with any sort of the terminology or jargon or whatever in this video, then also check out this video right here, which will help shed some light on the nature of fighting game notation.
Scarlet
Before we look at anything else, let's take a look at Groh's Avenger stance. You can enter into Avenger stance by just pressing B+K. This is just a generic way how to enter into Avenger stance, let's say if you want to do it from neutral, for instance. Alright, when you go enter into Avenger stance, what you want to do, this is just a Fisher-Price mix-up. It's just either go for the low, or for instance, go for a mid. In Avenger stance, the safe move that you can chuck out of it is the B option. This is your fastest option, so this one is to keep the opponent from pressing buttons. So when you go into Avenger stance, you don't have to worry about the opponent kind of like counter-hitting you, as long as you enter into it with advantage, such as off of 4A6. Once you have your opponent respecting your Avenger stance, then that's why you can try and sneak in the low option, or try and sneak in the B+K option, which is a break attack. Groh's Avenger A can look a little like gimmicky, for instance, and yes, if it gets blocked it is unsafe, but it is actually a pretty legit move. This move goes pretty far. And number two, if you hold it down, this gives you a stronger version that's also safe on block. So if you know the opponent's going to be defensive after you go into it, then if you end up going for the charge low version, you'll be safe if blocked, and that's good. You get a good knockdown when it hits. And number two, you can even kind of do it as like a ranged low poke. See, if you charge it in, see, all you're really worrying about then is either opponent, I guess, either being quick enough to intercept you, which, if they're not on point, they're going to get hit, or maybe jumping over it. But as long as you do it like occasionally, and then you can even, if you're not too far away, you can even occasionally use the B option, for instance. Just in case the opponent is anticipating you do this. Even though this isn't something to rely on, but it's just another thing for the opponent to have to worry about. Avenger B has a additional fault other than just BB. You can also do Avenger BK, for instance. This one's basically just for wall slamming the opponent because it does deal less damage and is actually unsafe on block, whereas Avenger BB is safe on block at only -6. You can also do a charge version, which is Avenger BK hold, and this is, you can guess it, you can use it to ring out the opponent. You also get that wall slam, or just for better frames if it gets blocked. But of course, it's slower and can be possibly interrupted. So this one is just for, same thing, basically to keep the opponent from pushing buttons. But this is the unsafe version, and it's only for wall slamming when you know you're going to hit the opponent. If you condition the opponent enough with the low option with Avenger A, then you can also hit them with Avenger A plus B. If you basically know that they're going to crouch, then you basically get this free hit throw. It's always a hit throw when it connects, even on normal hit. There are numerous ways to enter into Avenger stance other than just B plus K. You can also enter it off of like 6BB6. Or like, for instance, what other one? 66B plus K, 6. Alright, but the thing is that you generally don't want to enter into Avenger stance like at negative frames on block. You want to enter it on positive frames. And I think there's only really 2 ways to do that. The aforementioned 4A6. That one will get you in safely. Or A plus B6. Other than those 2, any other option to go into Avenger will leave you, well, negative. Like -4 or sometimes even worse than that. With Groh's Avenger stance out of the way, we can now take a look at his close range offense. Alright, just get the basics out of the way. Groh's AA is good, his BB is good, so 12 frames, 14 frames, 2A is good, 12 frames. Those, of course, are your basic buttons. To be able to open up an opponent that's basically just standing blocking, I mean, of course you have throws. But for lows, you have 1A, which is a pretty standard sweeping low, and 1B. Alright, so this move right here, as you can see, is like really hard to react to. And 1A is only easy to react to if the opponent's basically expectant, and then they can block it on reaction. But like 1B also does come out like pretty quickly. So if the opponent's respecting like your BB, for instance, then of course you can occasionally try and sneak those in. Alright, for other moves that you can do in close along with the basics, you also have 6A, or mainly 6A6. Not that move. I mean 6A6, which ends up going into the Avenger stance right there. You also have 6BB. This one also goes to Avenger. I'll let you know, if these moves gets blocked, then you'll be left at -4. Let me just slap Keelik to block right now. So what that means is, right now you're at -4. So you can occasionally try and sneak in the BB option, which is basically your fastest option out of this. Alright, so the main thing about this is you're going to have to kind of mix up the opponent. Like, if you do it predictably, then the opponent's going to basically just kind of like interrupt you with something. But if you occasionally just do 6A, or in this case you also have 6A right here, then at worst 6AA may trade with like a 2A or something. But the main point about this second move is to keep the opponent blocking. 6AA I think is not unsafe, so I mean, you can do that move fairly freely on the opponent's block, but you can also try and sneak in that, and then when the opponent's basically blocking that, then you can try and get in the low option, for instance. Same with 6BB. For opponents that are crouching, naturally your launcher is going to be 3B, always good. This you just do like 66B plus KB, then you go into Avenger. You can end up doing a mix-up either with a Avenger B plus K or Avenger A on Wake Up, like I showed you in the sample combos earlier. Alright, so other than 3B, another launcher you also have is 6B plus K. This one always goes into Avenger stance. After you launch the opponent, you can always do Avenger A to be able to splash the opponent, and then you can do Oki or just go for, instance, just go for 66B plus K and just take like the ground damage. So this launcher is either used the same thing if you know the opponent's crouching, or if you're around like mid-range, you can also use it as like a whiff punisher. A good crouching move while in close is your while standing B. Alright, this move isn't really much of anything on normal hit. If you press forward, it does go into the Avenger stance. If this move does connect on... where is it? If this move does connect on counter hit, then the BB option will be guaranteed. So, being a while rising move, or also called while standing move, this move obviously ducks under all highs, and it comes out reasonably quick. So if you can fish for that counter hit, then you can get a solid 51 damage with Avenger BB follow-up. Your close range horizontal mid-check will be 3-8, comes out in 16 frames, and is only -8 on block, making it fully safe. Groh specializes at close range combat, so when fighting around mid-range, your objective is to get in. Right, the couple moves that you will be using from mid-range to kind of get in, so kind of get in pokes, is 6-6A or 6-6B. They both have follow-ups in 6-6AA or 6-6BB. 6-6BB is safe on block, but under most circumstances, just do the first B just to be on the safe side. You can do both of them if you so desire too. For 6-6AA, the second hit is unsafe on block, and if you wanted to, there's also 6-6AB, which ends up giving you a knockdown and is even more unsafe on block at -14 as opposed to -12. So essentially, under most circumstances, just do the first A, and if you basically confirm a hit, then go for the second hit, or if the opponent's kind of just like swinging wildly and you know that you whiff punish something, then go for the second hit. As I alluded to earlier, you can occasionally use Avenger A as kind of like a low get-in move, because if you end up doing the charge version to hold down A, then it ends up being safe on block, so you're only worried about opponents basically like jumping over it or being able to somehow try and intercept it, so it is another tool to keep in mind. From here, there's also the B options, like the kind of other stuff I end up showing you can also like do from Avenger. Although, alright, getting back to just basically, let's say, fighting or striking around mid-range. An interesting move that Groh has is his 236B. See, this right here is a really fast move. This is the kind of move you usually see from a character like Sophitia, for instance, which is just like a quick stab right here. It gets a knockdown, and then if you can come in and follow up with like 6-6B plus K, for instance. So this move right here is a nice kind of like whiff punisher, or a move that, or even like an intercept. So it's a move to like when the opponent's off balance, or like let's say they run at you, or if you see them like whiff something or anything, then you can just smack them with this move. Great range and great speed. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of Groh's moves have like a built-in sidestep. For instance, 4A is a built-in sidestep, 4B is a built-in sidestep, and of course 6-6A and 6-6B have a built-in sidestep. So Groh is well equipped for dealing with vertical attacks. Alright, with that in mind, still your best sidestepping move is still simply 2-2B. Alright, this move unfortunately is not a launcher when it connects on normal hits or anything like that. However, as I showed you in a combo earlier, if this move connects as a lethal hit, then it allows you to get a pretty big combo. 6-6A plus B can also be used as a whiff punisher. It ends up knocking the opponent like quite far away. You end up getting good damage. If you end up doing it like in a corner, then you have the ability to be able to get like a fall after it. But take note that this move knocks the opponent quite far away, and generally with Groh you don't want to do that unless of course you have the life lead. On a slightly unrelated note, if you have to like jump over any move or anything, low crushes that you can use with Groh is stuff like simply a generic 9K or 8B plus K, which is incredibly slow but is also safe on block. But if you're jumping over a move, then of course you're trying to punish the opponent, and if you get blocked, you're still safe. And if you want a whiff punishing style, you have 6-6K. Alright, right now we're going to be taking a look at Groh's guard gauge harassment moves. Alright, a move that you can end up throwing out on your opponent's blocks somewhat freely is his 6-6BB. I already said earlier that the move is safe on block. It runs up the guard gauge quite well. Even just doing a 6-6B is good. Another good move that you can use is 4-4B. Alright, this move can be used from around kind of like mid-range. It does a lot of guard gauge damage. It's a little slow, but it's also +2 on block, so this is actually like an interesting kind of footsie tool. Alright, so along with those couple of moves I showed you, I know which are both verticals, you have some other moves which are also basically be verticals. Your A plus B. Alright, I said earlier that this is one of two safe ways to enter into Avenger stance, so you can even kind of like basically chain break attacks with this. So A plus B, then do another break attack, and right there you've just done like a tremendous amount of guard gauge damage. Actually, now that we're talking about break attacks, there's another break attack which I didn't end up featuring yet, which is actually an interesting one, is 2A plus B. Yes, Groh has a low break attack. This is godlike. So I mean, yeah, it's a little slow, and of course if the opponent does catch onto you, then they will jump. It will basically just jump over it, but it's just simply, you have a low break attack, you have a mid break attack, and then you have a break attack in stance. They're all good. A couple other moves you can use to run up the guard gauges from Avenger. Simply just doing the BB will start to add up on the opponent's block, or Avenger A hold. Both those options are also safe on block. As for breaking the opponent's guard and then inducing a guard burst, you can use moves such as 6-6B, 3B, 4-4-B. And you can also use moves such as like A plus B if you want to like go into Avenger. You can also break it with stuff like 6-6K, or from Avenger, BK breaks the guard. After you end up getting a guard burst, follow up with 6-6K.
What's wrong with my gun? Scarlet Sleeve! What's wrong with my gun?
Groh's throw game is mostly unremarkable, but I'll just show it as a formality. Alright, here's his A plus G throw. Leaves the opponent fairly close by, does 55 damage. Here's his 4 A plus G throw, or back A plus G throw. Switches sides, keep the opponent somewhat close, and also does 55 damage. Here's his right side throw. Deals 60 damage, keeps the opponent right there. And now his left side throw. Deals 60 damage and keeps the opponent fairly close. And now his rear throw. Deals 65 damage and leaves the opponent right there. When you have the opponent in the corner with Groh, generally you're going to want to try and wall slam with Avenger BK. And remember, again, this can be charged. Or 6 B plus K, which automatically goes into Avenger.
Separate. You will be erased. It ain't here. Stand up.
Now, let's take a look at Groh's Soul Charge game. Alright, his 236 A plus B plus K, the Soul attack is basically a fairly standard Soul attack that goes into vertical mode. And you can, if you press forward, then you'll end up going into the Avenger stance. Alright, I'll say right now, Groh's Soul Charge mode is just nuts. He basically becomes an offensive monster in... He basically just becomes an offensive monster in Soul Attack, and let's just say, Groh is pure anime when Soul Charged. You see this right here? This right here is Steed of the Night. This is basically an augment to the Avenger stance. So in Avenger stance, press forward, you go into Steed of the Night right there, which is basically the anime teleport stance. That is with forward or 6. If you press 4, then you go behind the opponent. And as you see, you can just do it continuously, because then it goes into Avenger mode again, and then you can like basically keep doing this, and like you said, I mean, Groh is just so freaking nuts in Soul Charge. Seriously. Basically, if you're thinking of playing Groh, his Soul Charge is basically the reason why you want to play him. I mean, besides, this is just like a pure Super Saiyan mode. I know Keelik has one also, but let's say moves like any move that goes into Avenger, let's say 6AA. You can go into Steed of the Night. Let's see, what else is there? 6BB. Forward, Steed of the Night. So basically, yeah, anything that basically goes into Avenger can go into Steed of the Night. So that essentially just... I'll just let you know right now. Most times when you go into the Steed of the Night stance, you'll be at frame advantage. So I mean, like, Groh just becomes a really terrifying offensive monster when under Soul Charge. You also gain some pretty sick moves, like your 1A gets a nice augment. It's now 1AK. It is now a powerful hit throw. And let's see, what else is there? Oh, 236B. Look at this. Another powerful hit throw. It just looks plain badass. And that's a lot of freaking damage. Naturally, some moves also get a buff while Soul Charge. 2A plus B gets a damage buff. This is already a pretty sick, it's a pretty awesome break attack. Other moves is 3BB. I mean, just 3BB does a tremendous amount of damage. I mean, normally it would just be 3B, but now you have basically a built-in combo with it. Let's see, other moves that get a buff. 4A plus B, so you have 4A plus B, which is normally a reasonably solid launcher. And now you have forward, and now you get like basically more kind of potential with that. You can now pressure opponents with moves such as 4B plus K forward. Alright, so as you can probably guess right now, Steed of the Night is just like plain ridiculous. You actually gain a couple additional moves on top of your usual Avenger moves out of Steed of the Night. Alright, so for instance, Avenger 6A right here is a pretty devastating break attack. And you still already have your Avenger B plus K break attack. So I mean, this is just some scary stuff. And of course, what's even scarier than even that? So Avenger 6B like this, look how high up this goes. So essentially, even if the opponent's even like thinking of like pushing like buttons at all, I mean, even though I mean it'd be kind of nuts to do that. I mean, you now have this move which goes like really high, just the same as like 3BB for instance. So I mean, there's just a lot of stuff to try to keep the opponents on the defensive. Avenger stance is pretty strong in its own respect, but in Soul Charge it gets even stronger. Like I showed you a bunch of stuff that you can do out of it, but even your standard stuff such as like your B string can get an augment such as Avenger B, K, B right there where it ends with the 236 B move. And you also get an augment to your Avenger K move. Alright, I didn't show this move earlier, but this is a decent low in its own respect. This is Avenger K. So then under this you can do Avenger K, A, K right there. So, and even the Avenger K can actually automatically go into Avenger stance, so you can kind of like loop it. And to go along with Avenger 6A, Avenger 6B, you also have a 6K right there, which is that forward kick. Also, Keelix CE does more damage while Soul Charged. This is just a standard one. It's a pretty typical vertical attack. Not really a huge fan of his CE compared to some other characters. Alright, he gets 80 damage, which is respectable, but under Soul Charge... it is a pretty devastatingly sick looking animation though. Right now you end up getting 98 damage. That's like what, like 40% of the health bar right there for a critical edge during Soul Charge. Naturally, Groh gained a few new moves in Season 2. For instance, he gained this move right here, A6. Alright, this move is obviously slower than doing a normal AA, but it is safe on block at only -2, and you see it ends up turning the opponent sideways every time you hit it with it, so it's a really solid horizontal move. Other moves that Groh did gain is right here. This is 3 A plus B or down forward A plus B, so it's basically just a little stand-in low you can do, along with, of course, you have 1B or 1A. So now you have 3A plus B right here, which is also a nice unreactable low to help augment Groh's close range game. Other moves that Groh gained is 66AB. So this is basically just a knockdown alternative to 66AA. You see some other moves is... Alright, Groh always had the kind of K option right there, so he gained an A follow-up to it. So you have the option to do just K, then go back into Avenger. If you actually hold it down, then you return back to normal. And now you have an A option right there, so you have like a couple options you can do after Avenger K just to be able to, like, I don't know, mix up the opponent a bit. Alright, so another move that Groh gained is 44K A right there, and there's also was a 6 Soul Charge version I think I showed you earlier. So normally the move would be 44K, which is a okay move in its own respect. You just fall with like a down B or something like this. So you have basically now have an A option right there. Also gained this new move BK, because normally he would just have BB, which is a safe quick poke you can do out of Avenger. So now you have that wall slam and K option. And another move that Groh gained is 236B right here. This move is just amazing though. It's like a whiff punisher, like kind of like a ranged poke. Be careful, I'm not sure if it's completely like safe on block, but it just comes out so fast that it's like good as an interrupt. Like I went over all the goodness of that a little earlier, but this move is just amazing. Right, the rest of the moves that Groh did gain I think are all pretty much Soul Charge related. For instance, this move right here, which is basically just a attack throw version, and also gaining out of Soul Charge, also gaining the moves like, for instance, BKB, and oh, I gotta stop doing that. And also KAK. Alright guys, that's it for now. Alright, I'll just let you say right now that Groh doesn't really have much in the way of unblockables. He just has 2 B plus K, and it's a pretty kind of meh vertical unblockable. Anyways, once again, I would like to thank Smart Esports and Trollcoin for endorsing this video. And as always, if you like this video, smash that like button. If you didn't like this video, just hit the like button even harder, and don't forget to subscribe for more juicy fighting game content. I would like to let you guys know that I've completed approximately 2/3 of the SoulCalibur 6 roster now, which is pretty cool. I also would like to take this moment to thank my premium top tier fighters for their continued support, which I do appreciate. If you'd like to become a premium top tier fighter yourself, click on the Patreon link down below. If you have any further questions, feel free to contact me on my YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch, so that means leaving a very enlightening and delightful comment down below. You can also contact Force Nature on 8-Way Run. Anyways, this is Force Nature signing off. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next time on Top Tier Tips.